Hello, everyone. I think we are live. A warm welcome to Wisdom from North. I'm Jannica, and I'm so thrilled that you are with us to warm up for the Self-Love Challenge that is starting on Tuesday the 4th and going on till June 9th. And together we will boost our own self-love and manifest and open up to more self-love. And this challenge is totally free, and I'd love for you to join. And then you can sign up on wisdomfromnorth.com/challenge. And this video is quite special because it's streaming two places. It's going on YouTube and also on Wisdom from North community on Facebook. So really lovely to have you here. And I have a guest that I would like me to introduce you to. It is Laura Jane Griffith. Hello, Laura. How are you doing today?
I'm good, thank you. Thank you so much for having me on, and thank you. And lovely to meet everybody in the community and YouTube as well. Thank you so much for this opportunity.
It's lovely to have you here. And we connected a while ago, and we're doing different things. We have different businesses, but we had so many similarities nevertheless. And I know that you are passionate about the topic of self-love, and it's a topic that I think we'll meet everywhere, no matter what we're doing and no matter what business we are in. If you don't love yourself, it's really hard to create a successful business. And we had some similarities as well, because I was a musical theater artist and you are a former actress as well. You trained as an actress in the UK, and then your life moved into a completely different direction. So today you own several businesses, you work by yourself, you are a coach, you help entrepreneurs really follow their dreams, and have this beautiful memberships where you help especially women to get fit and take some time out of their schedule to really give themselves that self-care. So you're doing amazing work, Laura.
Busy work. It's really, it's wonderful work. I'm very lucky. And I think that's one thing we also kind of found a lovely, relationship about, that it's something we do because we love it. And we're very fortunate we get to share something we love with other people and be a part of a world that we've made happy for ourselves. So that's a really important thing for me with what I do.
Yeah. And at the same time, you have been struggling with a lot of anxiety, and you were saying that actually amplified when you started your business. So
talk
a bit about how you have struggled with self-love and how that has looked like in your life.
Yeah, I've always had anxiety, I think, since I was little. My mum always said I was a worrier and I was very indecisive. And I ended up kind of at university putting myself in a situation that definitely wasn't what I needed in my life. It was quite abusive, and it knocked my self-esteem. And when I left, which is one of the reasons I ended up starting my own business, I had this notion that to succeed, I would constantly need people's approval and constantly need to be busy. And I would take on everything. I would say no to nothing because I was so fearful and anxious that if I didn't complete something, it would have this knock-on effect in my life, that I'd let people down. And it really had an adverse effect on my well-being. And I became really anxious and really, I wouldn't say depressed in the clinical sense, but I would say in a dark grey place that is not a nice place to be in as a business owner. And I worked 7 days a week. I overwhelmed myself, and I forgot completely who I was and what I actually was here to do. And just ended up, I shut myself off from the world a little bit, and I just worked. And it wasn't a very nice time. I don't look back on it fondly, but I look back on it in a lovely kind of, wow, I've come so far kind of way. And that is a big passion of mine now. It's definitely, there's a misconception when you run your own business that being busy and saying yes to everyone is building your self-esteem as a business owner and building your capabilities as a business owner. But actually, I think there's a big disconnect there to what is actually happening.
Yeah, and I read on your website, you spoke about this, that you felt that as long as you were busy, you kind of felt fulfilled, or that was like success, being busy, having a lot to do. And I so have a match with that, because I remember when I was in my depression, I bought this laptop, and it's just so sad in a sense. I went around with that laptop and I felt that I was kind of having a status because I had a laptop to show, sit at a cafe and I was doing something that made me feel better, just that laptop. But I had no idea what I was doing on the laptop. I didn't have a job or anything, but it made me feel better. So it was a status symbol in a sense.
Yeah.
But I
actually have about 7 or 8 notebooks stacked next to me, like just notebooks that when I left North Wales and moved to Bristol, I realized I had all these notebooks, and they were notebooks I'd kept the whole time, not to journal. It wasn't anything. It was to feel like I was always being productive. And I start, every page was like a missed page, and then a couple of pages in this one, a couple of pages, but it's exactly the same as your laptop. I carried a notebook around with me because I thought it meant I was accomplishing something if I had it there to sit when I was in, we're in Starbucks writing. And instead I've just got a lot of things that now need to go into storage.
Right. So I mean, we were so disconnected from ourselves as possible. It was all about those external things. And I didn't have anxiety, but how did you experience that? Was that a constant, like not being in contact with your breath?
Yeah, so anxiety for me is always, I actually interestingly wrote down my trigger symptoms the other day, and it is like my heart rate goes up, I'd have really bad sickness, and I would always be ill. And I would always be tired. And I kept going back to the doctor, and I go back and I'm saying, I like, not dramatically, I'm dying, I can't, I have to sleep all the time. I can't do anything. And then when I actually realized, because I was constantly thinking and my brain was always moving, I had no relaxation time and no downtime. So I wasn't ill. I was exhausted because my anxiety was leaving me in this heightened state. And I'm sure many people can, relate to that, being constantly wired. I'm a very, Yannicka, you'll know, I'm a very wired person anyway. I'm very energetic, but I was living in more of a nervous ball of energy all the time. I was late to everything. I was running around, chasing my tail. And the worst part was, because I had such low value of myself after these circumstances I'd been through, I wasn't charging my worth when I was working. So then a knock-on effect, as a business owner, I wasn't making any money, and yet I was working all these hours, having all this anxiety and this exhaustion, and having nothing to show for it, which then starts the cycle again of I need to work more to make more money, and then I have nothing to show for it, and I feel worthless. And I got trapped in this loop, and it was really, really hard to break. And it's a very interesting to reflect on, really, because with anxiety for me, it's always been a nervous energy and no focus. And I can't really focus.
So many things coming up here, and the topic of self-love is huge. Oh, you froze? Hello, everybody. I think we are live again. I think we are. I'm so sorry about this glitch. We are using this third Facebook party that's called Be Live, and sometimes things like this happen. So we had to reschedule the whole show, and we couldn't go on immediately. So sorry about that, and thank you for your patience. And I'm glad you're still here, Laura, with us. And yes, we were on the topic of self-love and how much you have been struggling with anxiety. And for me, it was depression, but it seems like it was a lot of the same things, like running in our lives, like in this rat race, and you had not contact with your breath at all. And I think when we are in this, you were kind of in this fight mode all the time, because we have these basic drives or mechanisms, fight, flight, or freeze. And when we're constantly on freeze, like our bodies never get to relax, and that can cause so many things, like stress and sickness, ailments. So actually not loving ourselves has so many consequences, because for you, you could never relax. You could never feel at home in yourself, and there's no joy in this rat race when we're just running all the time. And my experience is that the more we open up to self-love, the more joyful we're getting, the more healthy we're getting. It really changes the external life, and your life completely.
Yeah.
So I wanted to ask you a bit, in this time in your life, can you talk a bit more, because you felt that you said you were different characters in a way, like you didn't know who you were.
Oh, absolutely. It was really interesting. So to give more context to what I did, so like I said, I train as an actor. And when I left uni, I had this real vision that I would just become an actor, because you get in this bubble of, I can do it, I can totally do it. And my sister also did acting. The difference between myself and my sister is she has a different level of tenacity and self-belief than anyone I've ever met, and she's been very successful due to it. When I left university, I was too consumed with not knowing who I was. She has a very clear picture of who she is. You just have to have a conversation with her and you know this. But I'm very much I didn't know who I was. So I set my business up when I went back, and I did fitness classes in the week, and I worked as a children's entertainer on the weekend, and I was a princess. So I was really happy all the time. And my whole life, I'd spend all my day being, hi, everything's great. Yeah. And then this other side of me would be, oh God, I'm so exhausted. I'm so tired. I'm so wound. And I completely lost anything about myself. And interestingly, I remember going to a wedding, and the guy who was the groom's father is a priest, and he said, or a vicar, and he said, what do you do in your recreation time? And I remember saying to him, I don't have time for that. I don't have time for recreation. And he said, but do you not realize that recreation comes from the recreate? And he said, that is what we are here to do. You take your recreation time to recreate. And I thought, well, I haven't got time to recreate anything. I'm too busy trying to keep going. and it stuck with me, because I realized very quickly that actually, no, I was trying to be so many things to so many people. I had lost any creation of who I was, and I had no time to recreate that. And it put me in a really dark, sad place, and it was not a nice place to be in. And if you can relate to this, and you felt like that, it's a horrible place to be in. It's not nice.
And in my work in the Wisdom from North membership, we have this masterclass coming up now with Karianne Stenshagen. She's an astrologer, and she talks about the moon cycle. And I think everything is aligned. Like all the work I'm doing, the red thread is self-love. Because in her masterclass, because my members get one new masterclass every month, she talks about how you can live in alignment with the moon cycle. And that has to do with accepting that, okay, now it's new moon, it's time to start something new. Full moon, it's time to get out with your things, be the extrovert and person, and maybe launch something, whatever you are in. And then when it phases again, or I don't know, the black moon, I can't remember the different phases, but there's a time for everything. So after the full moon, it's a time to go within again, to reflect, to contemplate. And what we tend to do is to judge ourselves, like, oh, no, I should be like up there right now, and I'm not. And that can be influenced by not internal things, but external things, like the moon cycle, for instance, and still we judge ourselves for it. So knowing about these things will help us lose the judgment of where we are. And that's what I'm going to speak a lot about in my self-love challenge, is the accepting of whatever we are, accepting our emotions, not judging where we are. So it's a big picture, because this has to do with our belief systems that we're never good enough, but it also is external cycles that are influencing us all the time. It's even other people's thoughts that are influencing us. So there's this,
I think it's interesting actually you say this, because I remember during this period doing a reflection on borrowed beliefs. And part of my family is, I'm from a big family, and we have this attitude, every one of us, is you do not let anyone down, and you always work your hardest. And I'm from one of 4 children, and we're very different. But the common thread between all of our work and everything we do, and the reason we've gone so far, I think, in our life, is our parents have instilled this belief. What I didn't realize was this borrowed belief also had a negative cycle on me, that because they told me my whole life from an external force, you don't let anyone down, you don't say no to anything, you always do your best. this actual pressure that I put on myself to please and to make sure I didn't let anybody down, I always worked hard, was a belief system that actually wasn't my own belief system, was one that I'd just grown up with. And I was like, and I started to learn about borrowed beliefs. And I would say to anybody to do this exercise of actually sit down. It might be money you look at, emotions, your world, and look at the belief system that others have put on you. And all of a sudden you're like, oh, do I actually believe that? Does that actually work in alignment with what I do and who I am? And once I started to shift that as well, huge shift once I realized that.
Important. And guys, we would love for you to write comments if this is resonating, if you have something to say and something to add, if you discover something, please let us know. And yes, you're so right. The belief systems we have, it has such a big influence on our lives. And we're going to look at that in the challenge. Like, what do we believe in? Because that's something I've been working with a lot. And the working hard belief, it's a belief I think many of us have, that, like you said in the first part here, that the more I feel I work hard, the better I feel. But the thing is that you're not more successful nevertheless just because you work hard. You just trick yourself into feeling that, wow, I do something valuable because I work so hard. I work so much. And then at the same time, not charging enough. So you just have to work harder. And it's really what Vishen Lakhiani calls it, like it's a rule. It's like this bullshit rule. So we can work smart. We can work soft. We don't have to work hard. I think it comes all the way back from the Industrial Revolution.
Yeah.
Actually, I think it's like a common belief system.
Yeah, it's the keep calm, carry on belief system we have here. And it comes to anything with, like I mentioned to you, I actually sought some counseling in the end for my anxiety, but actually taking that step to do that was huge, because I'd come from this world of a belief where you just get on with it. You just deal with it, and not in a negative sense. Actually, my family, when I started going, they were so open to it, and they were like, wow, we see the benefits. We really support you, and we want to talk about it with you. And it actually helped them, have these conversations. And we've got a really open, we're really close family, like big family. And it was amazing that actually a belief system shifted because I shifted it for them a little bit. So, yeah.
I want to stress that, because that proves that when you transform yourself, you transform other people.
Hugely.
We cannot change others, but when we change, other people change around us too. And that is what is so beautiful.
Yeah. I actually wrote a blog on running a business when you have anxiety. So if anybody's watching this and you have anxiety and you run a business, it is consuming, because some days you don't want to get up and face the world. And I put this out there, and I was quite emotional when I put it out there, because it was quite a raw, I'm quite happy to share, a lot, but it felt quite, the first time I put it out. And my dad texted my sister and said, I really understand. And I've seen now, reading that, I understand more. And it was like a shift. And we then talk about it more, and it's become open. And instead of closing away this anxiety, that was my big mistake. The working, the not charging enough was all one product, but actually the core thing for me was not talking about it and not being open to not being embarrassed about having anxiety, and not seeing it as a negative thing, actually seeing it as part of me, and it's what I deal with. And and that was a belief I had to shift in myself. And that was, I can't wait to do a challenge for this reason as well, because I'm so open to shifts. And if you're open to shifts, they make an amazing difference.
Yes, and of course, what I really want to encourage you guys too that are part of the challenge is to share what you're going through. Yeah. It's like Laura's saying, it really helps to put words on it, not just reading other people's comments and being shy. Just put words on it, and it doesn't have to be perfect. And I know a lot of the Norwegian followers that I have think it's a bit scary with the English, but just jump into it. This is a challenge, and it's beautiful. Like-minded people here, a beautiful group that are there to support you. So this is your chance to really, take that leap of faith and have some breakthroughs. So really use that opportunity. And Laura, I also wanted to ask you about the difference between self-esteem and self-confidence, which I will talk about, because and I think we're having matches there. It's an expression.
Definitely.
We're mirroring each other there, that we have a lot of confidence, but we had to look at our self-esteem, and that's basically our self-worth. And we can come that far, I believe. We can come very far, but if we don't look at our own self-esteem, it will at some point be like this glass ceiling that we have to push through. So how have you been working on that? What was the turning point for you?
Yeah, it's really interesting because whenever I tell people that I have lower self-esteem, or it comes up in conversation, I don't naturally go around telling people. If it comes up in conversation, people are always shocked because I'm a confident person. I did acting. I've lived a confident life, and I set up a networking community in my local area because I was lonely. And instead of just joining one, this is an interesting parallel. I didn't want to join one because my self-esteem wasn't high enough to go and feel worth, but I had enough self-confidence to make my own. So I could lead a room of people, but walking into a room of people and trying to give my business value and my self-value, whoa, way too much. Put me in front of people and ask me to ask them to give me value and them to enjoy and open up and talk, fine. So that was a really big lesson for me, that I was I am a confident person, but why was I scared of so many things? And why am I still fearful of so many things? What element? And it comes down to self-esteem and needing people's approval. And I think it's from the stage world of like, we like gratification from people telling us, I was a fast runner. I loved winning. People tell you you're really good at running. You're like, yeah, I'm really confident at that. It doesn't mean that when that went and when I stopped running, I was like, oh, what are you going to love me for now? Like, I was really good at that. Like, tell me I'm good at something else. I'm not good at maths, but tell me I'm good at something. And I had these huge shifts. And like my sister, again, she's an actress and a singer, and she's amazing. And so I had a lot growing up of, she's so good. She's so good. So I was like, oh, like, what about me? And even though I was confident to do it, there's this underlying self-esteem that you hold yourself back with. And it was a massive thing for me. And it's been a really huge passion of mine now in the last couple of years since I've started to make these shifts and the biggest thing I can say to anybody is become open to believing these shifts can happen. Because we really sometimes think when you have anxiety and depression or anything like that, you can feel like you're never going to get to the other side of that pit. That this is just what life's chosen for you, and you just sit in it and you go, this is the hand I was dealt. I'm always going to feel this way. And I said to my half yesterday, I said, if I believed that, I wouldn't get out of bed every day. And it makes me a bit emotional because I always believe that you can develop and you can grow. So my self-esteem is what I'm currently working on, but what I've become impassioned to help others work on. And I teach fitness now online and making it accessible and creating communities for people to fit exercise into their life. Because for me, exercise gave me 20 minutes when I focused solely on myself, nobody else. I felt my body move. I felt the connection with my body, my breath, my mind in one. Granted, I do burpees. Some people might want to do yoga and Pilates, but I do burpees. And it gave me that connection, and I felt really strong when I finished. And that wasn't a confident strong. That was my self-esteem felt strong because I had accomplished something. And that was a big turning point for me, finding what worked and being open to new things.
Beautiful. And I love what you said that, and I had exactly the same thought, that this will never change. When I was depressed, like this was what God gave me, and I just have to survive it. And that was wrong. Like today, I'm just so glad I got out of it.
Yeah.
And I feel like if I can get out of it, anybody can, because it was so dark for me. And it's still a journey. It's still a journey that I am on constantly, because there are layers behind layers. And I'm noticing things all the time where I'm like, wow, that was not very self-loving to do, Jannica. And I think it has to do with awareness. And that we're on different levels, in a sense, not in a hierarchy, but we have different things we need to look at. And though we've come so far, like you're saying, we still have even more that's like, oh.
Yeah. It's a journey. Yeah.
Yeah.
It is. And it's surrounding yourself with people who understand that journey and want to support you on that journey, because that's a hard thing. If you're with people who aren't ready to take a journey with you on this aspect or support you in it, it can be really demoralizing. And I had that. And I had other people's self-esteem and their self-confidence dictating a little bit of how I was feeling. And I had to really pull that power back. And that it was that power struggle between, I want their approval because I want them to believe in me and I need them to believe in me. But actually, I have to believe in myself and I have to believe I can do it. And I have to see a light that I'm creating, not that somebody's giving me permission to have a light. I have to make it.
Right. And I want to end with that, the permission. That's somehow we feel we need a permission to shine a light. We need a permission to follow our dreams. Like I said in your interview, a friend of mine who said to me, he went to all these therapists and psychics or coaches, and whenever he got the permission to follow his inner voice, it was like, okay, now I can do it. And then it would, one step of the journey, and then he needed the confirmation again. Do I still have the permission to do it? And somehow we feel like we cannot give it to ourselves. And that's why I think we need to help each other. We need to be there for each other. We need to find like-minded people. We need to find places and arenas where we can really be vulnerable, dare to be vulnerable, and see our own shadows and see the layers in a safe environment. Because otherwise it can be really destructive. Like if we have people that are not supporting what you're trying to open up to, because it's very, very vulnerable. But I would say right now, look at, guys, that part of the permission, that if you could find in yourself to give yourself the permission to shine, by knowing that it is for you to give yourself the permission. You don't have to get it from anybody else. Not that it's wrong to get it from anybody else. You have everything inside of you. You can give it to yourself as well. It is there. And yeah.
Absolutely. I have my best friend, when I was in an iffy place, and every time I left her house, she'd give me a hug and she'd say, it's a very British saying, you are a delight. You are a delight and you are a joy. And every time I left, she'd always say that to me. And we say it to each other now when we're having, you are a delight and you are a joy. And she'd say it because you won't say it to yourself, Laura. And she'd always say, you need to say it to yourself. And she'd always say it to me. And having that one person say that to you, I'd say it's there every day. So every day, I just felt better from that one sentence. And actually, if we say that to ourselves more, and you just open yourself up to giving yourself permission to like who you are and enjoy being the person you are. Yeah, it's a journey. I'm still well on it, like on a good bike going somewhere. But yeah, it's a great way to look at it.
Yeah. Okay, Laura, thank you so much. And I can't wait, guys, that we're going to, my English is a little bit slow today. I'm noticing that it's not like flowing. So excuse me for that. It's not my main language. Sometimes it's like flowing, other times it's like, but I have to love myself for that, right?
Better than my Norwegian, Yannicka, so don't worry.
Okay, I'm truly looking forward to the challenge. We will start on Tuesday, 7 p.m. CES time, and you will also get access to the page when you sign up, where you can get all the exercises that I'm going to give you. And we're going to give you different topics each day, so it will be a journey. I will explain to you why you might lack self-love, the areas you might want to look into in yourself. And then it's up to you, if you want to do all the exercises or if you just want to pick some of them. Just follow your intuition and do the exercises that are resonating with you. And then we'll do them together to really have that energy going so we can support each other. Because I really think that the more people we are, the more strong the energy will get. And then it's more possible that we will have breakthroughs. And that's what we want, right? To have real breakthroughs. And some tools that we can use in our lives when this challenge is over. Okay, Laura, thank you so much for being here today, and I can't wait to challenge with you.
I know, I really am so excited to start the challenge, so thank you. Thank you for watching, everybody, as well, and listening and things, so, and having me on. I really, really appreciate it.
Of course, lovely to have you here, and have a beautiful day. Much light from Norway and the UK. Bye.
Bye.